It's a beautiful virtual day for a beautiful virtual ride. Hi, I'm Chad, and welcome to another video. So in the past few weeks, I have noticed a lot of fellow Tuono V4 owners reaching out and asking what aPRC settings I use to do wheelies on my Aprilia Tuono V4 1100 factory. So I figured today would be a great opportunity to tell you which settings I use, why I use them, and show you a little bit of how I actually wheelie with this motorcycle. But before we get started, I'd like to acquaint you with some important safety information. All wheelies that you see me do in this and other videos are actually computer simulations of what it would be exactly like to do a wheelie on an Aprilia Tuono V4 factory under the certain inputs and conditions. None of this is real, and I think for the most part, wheelies are generally frowned upon on public roads, and they are dangerous. You can seriously injure yourself or more should you mess up a wheelie. So therefore, I recommend, if you try to learn wheelies, doing it in a controlled, closed environment, supervised by professionals. I accept no responsibility whatsoever should you have any negative impacts on your life or any other lives from you trying to do wheelies and messing it up. Pretty yellow flowers. So with all those fun bits out of the way, let's go ahead and pull over so I can show you exactly what settings I'm using and tell you a little bit about why I use them. Alright, hopefully this is just as good a place as any. Not a lot of traffic in virtual reality today, but take a look there. So the Tuono V4 factory and RSV4 actually, model years 2017 to 2020, have a suite of electronics known as Aprilia Performance Ride Control, or aPRC. This consists of a few different electronic settings, including Aprilia Traction Control, Cornering ABS, Aprilia Wheelie Control, Aprilia Launch Control, and 3 different engine maps. My preferences for doing wheelies are to have traction control on one or off entirely. When it is off, you'll get this little warning light in the bottom right hand corner of the dash. I use the race engine map just because I like the way the delivery is and the lack of engine braking. Very smooth and responsive. I turn cornering ABS off actually. The cornering assistance is only available on settings 2 and 3, as is rear ABS. So with ABS on 1, you just have standard front ABS, no ABS in the rear. I haven't tried running ABS on a higher setting to do wheelies, but I'd assume that's probably going to be essential because you don't want to have the bike think that the front wheel is locking up because it is spinning slower than the rear wheel. Aprilia wheelie control must be off. In my experience, you can't do a wheelie for more than a second or two, and the front wheel never comes very high off the ground if you have Aprilia wheelie control on at all. So you got to disable that entirely. And then Aprilia launch control shouldn't really matter too much here because we're not launching the bike. So it should have no bearing whatsoever on your ability to wheelie. Also, I cannot confirm or deny this, but I have heard that having traction control on will actually limit your wheelies to 10 seconds. So again, can't confirm or deny this, but have heard and read on the forums that doing wheelies with traction control on will prevent you from doing wheelies for any longer than 10 seconds. So in a lot of cases, it's just better to leave it off, I think, if you're trying to do this, because I'd hate to be on a record wheelie, reach 10 seconds, have it cut the power and bring the front down pretty hard. So I'm a clutch up kind of guy. I don't really like power wheelies. Haven't had the best experiences with those. I feel like the clutch gives me a lot more control. So basically what I do, start in second gear, somewhere between 40 and 50 miles per hour, cover the rear brake, and I'm actually going to use the rear brake like a lot to do this. Basically what I try to do, pull the clutch in, rev the engine up, or really just give it, you know, 2/3 or so, 50% to 2/3 throttle, and come off the clutch quickly but smoothly, a smooth clutch pop. And then as the front wheel comes off the ground, I'll usually close the throttle just a little bit, feed it a little bit more, but try not to be too twitchy with the gas. That's going to make for a very wobbly wheelie. Not very confidence inspiring, but as the front wheel comes up, I try to catch it on the rear brake. So basically, once the front wheel's off the ground, try to keep the throttle as smooth and steady as possible and control it with the rear brake. Obviously, with all of these virtual aPRC settings applied. Alright, so what's that going to look like? Let's take a look. So something to note here, I am certainly no master of wheelies. There are many people on the internet that are far better at wheelies than I am. I've only been trying to learn these for about a year, actually not even quite a year. So much better resources out there for doing impressive, everlasting wheelies. But if you're doing it on an Aprilia Tuono V4 factory, this might help you get started at least. So we can switch to the rear brake cam or check out the rear brake and how I use it. So we're gonna go clutch up, catch it on the brake, then give it a little extra brake to bring it back down. Pretty straightforward, I think. A little wiggly there, a little wobble. Finding balance point is quite tricky and not something that I have been able to do yet. I think I've come pretty close, but so another reason I like to leave traction control off in these types of situations is because I have had times where the rear tire has been a bit cold and it has actually spun it a little bit. Traction control has intervened very abruptly as the front wheel has come off the ground, and it hasn't been a good time. So I've had the best experience with just turning it off entirely. A little intimidating at first, of course, but you get used to it. Something else that I feel helps with my control is scooting all the way back in the seat before I start the wheelie. Sliding around in the seat while you got the front wheel coming off the ground is not a fun experience. Again, one of those things that is not confidence inspiring, and I do not recommend it. So it's really, I think, all about just trying to find that balance between the throttle and the rear brake, and using both to try to control the wheelie as best you can. Alright, so stop for a second. I'm going to show you what it looks like to do this with wheelie control on. So wheelie control has to have traction control on. So now that we've got traction control back on, just on 1, the lowest, least invasive setting, I'm going to go and put wheelie control down on 1, which is the lowest wheelie control setting. And we're going to give it a shot. Oh, that one hurt a little bit. Whew. So enough with that. Jeez. So as you can see, even with traction control and wheelie control on their least invasive settings, the bike is intervening pretty severely, making it basically impossible to do a wheelie that lasts more than a second or so. And then now that those systems are off again, we can have some fun. And again, just comes back down to that throttle and brake balance. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So, thank you so much for watching. If you found this video insightful, helpful, or entertaining, I would sincerely appreciate it if you gave this video a gentle little click of the like button and considered subscribing for more virtual motorcycling shenanigans such as these. I also like going to racetracks, have my Triumph Daytona 675R race bike that I'll be testing out this coming weekend at Auto Club Speedway. Think on new tires. So stay tuned for that. Drop a comment below. Are you a wheelie master? Have you been trying to create your own virtual wheelie simulations as of late? Let's talk about it down in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Until then, later.